Today, we are going to cover 5 myths around Amazon PPC and where they come from and what the truth behind this is. So, stick around and figure out exactly if you thought one of these myths is true. My name is Noah Wickham. I'm sales director here at My Amazon Guy, and we are going to dig into this. So, what is the first myth? The first one that I see, I think this is the most common and prevalent one among most sellers, would be that PPC is the largest or one of the largest factors in organic ranking. And this is simply not true. Now, does PPC have a huge factor when it comes to organic ranking? Yes, of course it does. But it is not really that large of a factor. It's actually, usually around fourth or fifth when it comes to the actual ranking of your SEO in general. The number one thing that has to do with organic ranking is organic sales. If you get organic sales, that is going to boost your organic ranking for any keyword any day out of the week, 5x the amount that it would for PPC sales. Now, what also is a large influencer? Click through rate is a huge influencer, and conversion rate are huge influencers as well. All of these come from organic. You can be getting a lot of clicks on your PPC, may seem like very high relevancy, but if you're not getting conversions or sales at the end of the day, it's not going to help your organic ranking. PPC in general is not the biggest factor when it comes to organic ranking. And I think most people know that. But there are a lot of misconceptions out there that PPC sales is the only way to truly kind of introduce and get your ranking up. What is the second myth of the day? Second myth of the day is that the number one ad position on top of search is going to be the most profitable for you. This is just a myth. It can be the most profitable in some instances if you have a super high relevancy targeting keyword that has great conversion rate and you have a great brand and great pricing, but it is not necessarily always going to be the most profitable. Why? Well, it's because most of the time you're going to be going after an exact match or a phrase match, and you're going to have a very high top of placement bid adjustment. So this is type area where a lot of times you're going to be paying more for that first place spot, and it's not always going to be the best for you from a conversion standpoint. You may be getting a lot of clicks in that first place spot, but unless it's an extremely relevant keyword or it's an extremely relevant overall product to that keyword, you're not going to be getting as many conversions. It also will matter what your pricing is. If you are, let's say, double the price of your next competitor, but you still have that first place position, you likely are not going to see the conversion on that first place that you want to. So, number one spot is not always the most profitable. Can it be? Of course it can, but it is not necessarily going to be the most profitable. It is going to be fantastic to help you rank, as again, you'll be getting more clicks at the end of the day and likely more conversions, but it might be unprofitable at the same time in that same capacity. Now, for number three, this one is one that I am constantly seeing, especially amongst new sellers. And that is that PPC can be a set it and forget it mentality. And that is absolutely false. That is one of the biggest myths that I see. People will create auto campaigns. They will go through and say, I'm just going to put this auto campaign up, let it run, or I'm going to put these exact campaigns up and let them run, never adjust the bids, do anything. They do all right. They stay within the ACoS limits, etc. And just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And at the end of the day, PPC is not set and forget. PPC is something that you should be optimizing all the time to try and get the best results possible. Just because something works doesn't mean that you can't optimize it. It's not something you're trying to solve at the end of the day because PPC isn't really solvable. It is something that you have to optimize, especially because everyone else around you, all of your competitors are also optimizing all of the time. So this is one of those areas that I really encourage people not to fall into the trap of set and forget. Even if you're going to use something like AI ad optimization, those are still not set and forget, even if you really, really want to. What is the next one? This one is probably one of my more favorite ones just because I think it's the most misunderstood. And that would be that thorough keyword research is all you need for success. Now, that sounds counterintuitive to what you should be doing for advertising it because it is. At the end of the day, yes, you do need thorough keyword research, but that's not going to do everything for you. Just because you can have the best keywords out there with the highest relevancy doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do fantastic for you. Relevancy is always going to be subjective to every single product. So you can have what seems like the most relevant keyword out there. Let's say you are selling a blue balloon. if you put the keyword blue balloon, you would assume that that would be a super high relevancy keyword. But at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful with that, because there could be a lot of other people who are also going against that keyword. The bid structure could be really high. You could have competitors that are way cheaper in pricing than you. It doesn't mean that necessarily that is going to be the only thing that you need for your success is the thorough research in the keywords. You need to also understand the bidding adjustments. You need to understand dynamic bidding. You need to understand how to do difference between exact phrase and broad campaigns, when to use a sponsored brand campaign, right? All of these things come into play and come into practice in advertising. So it's definitely something that you should always be looking at. Thorough keyword research absolutely is a necessity in PPC advertising, but it is not the only thing that will make you successful in it, unfortunately. We have saved one of the best for last, in my opinion, and that would be that more keywords means more sales. I hate this one. So, one of the major things that I always see, especially with AI advertising, is someone who will have a 1 to 2 ratio, 1 to 3 ratio of organic SEO keywords to paid SEO keywords. And what I mean is, for every one organic, they'll have 2 or 3 paid keywords. More keywords does not mean more sales at the end of the day. Now, should you absolutely add keywords as much as you can that are high relevancy and make sense to try and go after? Of course. Should you have auto campaigns that are going to continually get new search terms for you and do gold panning? Of course. Should you make sure you're doing negations against any of these keywords that don't seem relevant and really shouldn't be sold against? Yes. More keywords does not necessarily mean more sales. One of the common practices and principles that we always talk about is the best practice is 5 keywords per campaign, max of 10. The reason for this is that you are trying to limit the overall keywords. Just because you add more and more campaigns and more keywords does not mean that you're going to get more sales. And even if you continually see sales coming in, it's not always going to be super profitable sales, right? That's one of the major areas that people get stuck in is, oh, I see sales number go up, therefore I continue adding on. But what happens if you're doing that in an unprofitable circumstance? You'll never be able to keep that up long term. So that is the number one myth that I can possibly push out there, is that just because you're adding more and more keywords does not mean you're going to get more and more sales. That also comes from the aspect of there are only so many high relevancy keywords out there that you can actually gain sales from. Now, you can get thousands upon thousands of different keywords that end up being organically ranking, sponsored ranking on your product. And you will get tons and tons of sales from that, but there is a market cap everywhere, is essentially the best way to look at it. So, more keywords does not always mean more sales. It can mean more sales, but I very heavily encourage you to make sure that you focus more on the organic sales than the paid sales when it comes to adding more and more keywords.
Selling on Amazon doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to make it easy for you. Just scan the QR or click the link in chat.